Welcome to this little audio on how can you find purpose in all your jobs. As part of launching my new course, Deep Clarity, Discover the Career That You Really Want, I thought I'm going to do this free sequence of a couple of audios for you to help you understand what I'm doing in this course and why it's going to be valuable to you. And also, I'm going to address some of the most common questions that I get around finding your purpose and finding your ideal career. And one question I always get as well, so how can I add more purpose to my job? And at the same time, people are worried if they want to find more purpose that they have to overthrow their entire lives and it's going to be incredibly difficult, or they're running after this big vision that they feel they can never reach. So from my experience, and this might be a very groundbreaking, different, new perspective on finding purpose in your job, is you can find purpose in every job that you have currently. Even the most shitty job has the purpose to teach you a lesson that you haven't yet learned. So let me explain what I mean by that. Maybe you've been in situations where you've switched jobs frequently, and I've seen this in some people. And then what happens is the same problems resurface after a couple of weeks or month, right? So it's the same issues that you maybe have with coworkers or with bosses, or the way the company works, or the way you're advancing in your career. And the reason that this is happening, and this might be a slightly spiritual perspective, but it's even something that you can explain rationally, is that we attract always the same things, right? The way we live and the way we look at the world is how we perceive the world, but also how we attract and subconsciously choose our jobs. So, and two examples that I've brought to explain this in terms of how can you find purpose in your current job, and how can you also learn your lesson to then actually move on to the job that you want, which is what my course is all about, is that you need to see the lesson in your current situation and learn how to overcome it, because then automatically you're not going to choose jobs like this again, or even your current jobs and the way you interact with people around you will change. So one example that I meet a lot and I've had multiple clients deal with is a boss that you don't really like, or that's a bit shitty to you, and they keep swamping you with work and they don't really value you, right? So the biggest things, probably a lot of people know this, you don't feel valued and you feel like it's always you who has to do all the work. And then our focus often is on, okay, I need a different boss, I need to change my job, or I need to talk to my boss so that they value me more, or I need to, like, you're constantly in fight mode because you feel like you don't really get what you deserve in this job. So you're not really happy, you don't feel fulfilled in what you're doing, and you constantly feel like you have to watch your back. That is the perspective that a lot of people take. So now watch this perspective switch, because it might hurt initially, but it's going to set you free and it's going to help you find real purpose in your job and in your career. So the reason why you end up with shitty bosses, and this is the cold hard truth here, is you're probably a people pleaser, right? So you hope by doing a lot for others, you're eventually going to get something back from them, or get the thing back that you want. So for example, you want this recognition and you hope by working really hard and helping everybody and taking on any requests that you're getting, you're going to help others. That people are going to appreciate you and they will finally help you. And then when that doesn't happen, you feel resentful. Often it also means if you don't feel valued, that, I'm sorry to tell you, you have low self-confidence or low self-esteem. And you subconsciously keep picking workplaces where your boss or your environment confirms that. Yeah, so if you think deep down, ooh, maybe I'm not good enough, then you're probably going to pick environments that will mirror that exact same thing to you, because your subconscious wants to be right? You survived this way for so many years. So your subconscious is not necessarily interested in getting you fulfilled. It wants you to survive. And if not feeling good enough has let you survive up to this point, this is what your subconscious wants to stick with. But the way out is not to then ask your boss or ask the people around you to give you more confirmation. You need to fix this in yourself. And I'll talk about this in a minute, where I'll give you a couple of reflection questions on how you can switch this for yourself. But one thing I want you to take away is your purpose in this current job, if you're feeling like you're being swamped with work and don't get valued, is to overcome your people-pleasing patterns and is to fix your self-confidence. In this example, right? Sometimes there might be different reasons for why you get swarmed and you don't get the value or don't get valued, but mostly this is what it is for most people that I have worked with. You can also check out the rest of my YouTube channel. There's a couple of interviews. For example, Natalia was one of my clients that really struggled with this, and now it's completely switched for her. But we needed to switch that within herself. So when people come to me and they say, I want to have more purpose in my job, this is where you need to start. Because if you don't fix these things, you're not going to end up in a career that is really purpose driven, because you're trying to kind of jump the lessons, right? This is as if you say, like, I want to be a marathon runner, but I don't want to learn how to tie my shoes. You need to learn these things. So in any job that you are right now, you can find purpose without even needing to switch the job. You just need to be really aware and develop a bit more of self-awareness to be able to spot these things. And I'll give you a few questions in a minute on how you can do that. So that's one example. Another example that I also faced frequently, so a bit of a vulnerability share here, is I was in conflict with people who didn't do or listen to what I had to say, right? Or who sometimes consciously sabotaged the way I was managing projects. And then they, for example, tried to pull resources away from my team, or in some way, like, make me look bad in front of my boss and all of these things. And what that really triggered for me was like, oh my God, I'm not respected. And then I tried to work really hard. I tried to work even harder to get that confirmation that I am respected and then I am doing a great job at this. And that I deserve to be respected. Sometimes I still remember this. There's like one colleague in a job that I had who really was the most disrespectful person, and probably he was even more disrespectful to women. Which might have been cultural, whatever it is, but it was definitely not okay. And then I was like, oh, we're doing this 360 feedback here in our company, and I'm gonna invite him to give me feedback because I always want to learn. But I think really for me that was the way of trying to win him over, and that just reinforced again that maybe he wasn't respecting me the way I wanted to be respected. And eventually this person did they let him go because he just didn't fit the company, and he was not just treating me this way. So I wasn't really the problem, but it definitely showed me where my purpose was, which was to start respecting myself more. Because if someone like this can make me doubt myself so much and leads to me wanting to work even harder to prove myself, the problem is not them, the problem is me, right? And now I know this, now I can lean more back when people, in quotes, treat me disrespectfully, because I know it has nothing to do with me. I can lean back and I might set a boundary. Yeah. Honestly, in my work now, I rarely ever meet people like this, because I've switched this for myself and I just don't attract people like this. But it can obviously still happen in my day-to-day with, I don't know, doctors, people that you meet somewhere. And I just set a boundary with people like this. Instead of trying to fight them or trying to prove a point, I more set a boundary. I'm like, okay, this is how I want to be treated. If you don't want to treat me this way, I'm going to move on and work with someone else. But it's not something where I now feel like, oh, I need to do something. And this is why this is way less of a problem in my day-to-day life now, because I've fulfilled my purpose of learning this lesson. And that's why I could move on, and I could move on to work with different people. And I think this is what I want you to take away from this. Purpose, we always put it into this like big mystical context of, oh, I need to have purpose. And a lot of people don't even dare to look for their purpose, because they're like, what if I have to then, abandon my entire life and my entire career to change everything? I'm not sure I want that. And I don't even know if there is something like this, like a very specific purpose. And I think that is just such a fluffy way to think about this. And I'm encouraging you to say, start with where you are right now, because whatever lessons you need to learn to get closer to a purpose-driven life and career are already right in front of you. You just need to see them and work on them. And I think that takes a lot of the pressure out, but that will also develop you into the person that then will make a greater impact on the world. Like so many people that come to work with me say, they're always saying, okay, I want to have impact in my career and my work. So, and the other thing is that once you learn to learn these lessons, you're going to get closer to really choosing a purposeful career and knowing what your purpose is beyond just working on your own issues, but really making a positive contribution to our planet, to other people's lives, to an industry, whatever your desire is. And that, in my opinion, over time is the better choice, because you're not so busy with your own self all the time, but you are someone who can, actually make a positive contribution, which I think we more than need in this world right now, the way we've been treating our natural resources and the way people are dealing with themselves right now. And it's also something that, in my experience, makes you more fulfilled, because it's not just about you anymore. So what I want to share with you as a little close up to this audio is 3 questions or 3 phases of questions that you can journal on or reflect on in order to figure out what is your current purpose in your job. And the first set of questions is, ask yourself, and I'm asking you, take out a piece of paper and really write this down, or next time this happens, take some time to reflect on this, because that's the only way to work through this. Is first set of questions: what annoys me at work, or what gets me emotionally fired up on a regular basis? And if you start observing yourself, you might notice certain patterns, right? Maybe it's people are being late, maybe it's your boss talking to you a certain way, maybe it's colleagues doing certain things. I used to be a project manager, so for me the biggest thing was when people weren't specific about their to-dos and didn't communicate about missing deadlines and blockers they had. Like, it was lots of different things. So that's the first set of questions. First of all, start observing like what annoys you, because that gives you information about where the next lesson for you is to learn. Then the next question is, you can analyze this once you've spotted the pattern and ask yourself, okay, so what grudge do I hold? Like, what do I actually want the other people to do different? What am I not getting out of this situation, right? Like, am I not getting appreciation, confirmation, respect? Like, what is the thing that I think I'm missing? Because again, that gives you information about what is it exactly that like triggers this? What kind of human need is not met? And then the third set of questions is, what keeps you from giving this thing that you're missing, that you've just identified, from giving this to yourself, right? So are you respecting yourself? Are you appreciating yourself? Are you reconfirming yourself? Because what I find almost exclusively when we do this in coaching, people don't do this, right? They expect other people to do it for them, but they don't do it for themselves. So actually they, for example, think of themselves that they're not good enough, but they constantly want other people to tell them they are. So you need to start with yourself, and that's the lesson you need to learn. So how can you give this to yourself, right? First of all, what keeps you from giving this to yourself? Sometimes it's beliefs of like, oh, I was taught that this is, I don't know, not proper, or women don't do this, or men don't do this, or whatever. Like, try to identify this and then start doing this. Like, give it to yourself, because that makes you become more self-sufficient and less dependent in that sense of other people catering to your needs in that sense. And that again makes you more free. And this is another thing that a lot of people want to feel in their careers, especially when they're on the verge of leaving the corporate world. They just want something different. They don't want to be stuck in these systems. But the thing is, if you rely on these systems to cater to some of your needs that you're not meeting yourself, you're most likely not going to leave this, right? Another thing can also be significance and having a sense of importance and all of these things that sometimes in certain jobs or careers come with certain titles or positions that you've reached, or certain companies that you work for. But if you're only working for these companies because you subconsciously think that if you don't have this, maybe you're not as valuable, you're not going to leave, right? You're holding yourself hostage, and you're not going to be able to build a lot of purpose in your career. So I hope that this myth busting, in my mind, totally new perspective on how you find purpose without switching your job has really been helpful to you, and will give whatever job you're in right now already purpose from tomorrow onwards. And then what we're also going to do in the Deep Clarity course is that I'll help you to dive into this specific part a bit more deeply on how you find the purpose in what you're already doing. And then also I'm using a special personality test that helps us read through, and I'm going to explain this in the course on how you can read out what are typical things that are really your purpose in this life and that you can apply in lots of different ways. So this personality test is not going to give you a job. It's going to give you different themes of what your purpose is. And that, again, you can already find in lots of different jobs. For example, for me, a big thing is to do deep work with people and also to look at family history in terms of, having peace with any past experiences. And I do that a lot in my work, even in leadership coaching. So this is how this purpose has found its way into my work. But the same purpose I could probably live in like 50 different types of jobs as well. And that's what we're going to do in the course as well, to walk you through this. And I'm also going to walk you through what is the difference between pushing it ahead in your career and feeling a pull towards your purpose. Because I see so many people pushing in their career, trying to get to a point, trying to prove a point about themselves. And it's always this like, oh, I need to fight for something. But my experience has been when you're truly connected to your purpose, there is a pull that almost doesn't let you stop, even when things get hard. So there is more ease in some ways, and there's a higher commitment that doesn't always lead to you questioning if you're on the right path. So this is another thing that we're going to do in the course, which I think is amazing, that I'll really talk you through. If you're still pushing in your career, how can you get to a pull? How will this feel more natural to you? And how can you connect to your true purpose? But I would highly recommend that you work on the reflection questions I've just shared, because that is kind of almost the pre-work, and that will already help you get ahead in terms of finding more purpose in the job that you're already in right now from tomorrow.